Oh, hello there. I didn't see you there. I've gotten asked a few times about my Pony Boy Bitless bridle and how to use it, how I use it. So I thought I'd talk about it a little bit and just share what I know. I'm Lizzie, by the way, and this is Stella, aka the SportPony. If you are new here, then thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoy your stay and welcome to the SportPony Club. You're looking absolutely marvelous today, by the way. And so is Stella. Okay. Firstly, how you fit a bitless bridle is very similar to how you fit a noseband on a regular English bridle or a hackamore or any halter in that matter. And that is, I believe it's 2 fingers width down from the cheekbone, which is about that. You really want to make sure that your nose piece is not too low on their nose because their nose bone cartilage is much thinner and more fragile down here. So you can really do a lot of damage if you are putting a lot of pressure on your reins if your nose piece is too low. Make sure sometimes when I'm using mine, it'll loosen up over time, or if you just didn't tighten up the first time. So you want to make sure that you keep an eye on it and tighten it if it needs to be tightened. Yeah, about 2 fingers down. This particular bitless bridle is a Pony Boy bridle, and I think this is pretty common for how bridles work. Here's Stella, turn to the side. If you can see, there are these loops down here, which are made for the reins, but I hook my reins up directly to these loops up here, which is connected directly to the nose piece. Because the way that bitless bridles are usually made to work is that when you put pressure on them, it tightens down below on their chin. They're supposed to loosen after you release pressure, but a lot of times they don't really loosen after you put pressure on them. So they're putting false pressure on your horse, and then they don't really get that feeling of release of pressure. So it's not great for training. So that's why I hooked it up directly to the piece that is on the noseband, because it's much more direct and it works much better this way. So the way that I train Stella to the bitless bridle is a little bit different than I think most people would do it, because I had initially taught Stella how to ride with a halter. She already knew how to respond to a halter pressure, so riding her with a halter was not much different than her responding to a halter on the ground. And I was pretty confident in my groundwork foundation, and I was not scared, or I didn't feel like there was any possibility of her exploding under saddle when I first started riding her. So I actually had to teach her how to ride with a bit. The way that I would actually recommend to train your horse to a bitless bridle is kind of the way that I train Stella how to ride with a bit. And that is by changing one thing at a time, which is kind of something that Warwick Stiller teaches. And if you don't know Warwick Stiller, you need to go know Warwick Stiller, because he's an amazing horse trainer. Anyways, what I did with Stella when I was training her to ride with a bit is that she was used to riding in a halter, so I added the bit and the bridle under her halter, and then I would use both the reins at the same time so that she would get the feel for the command as I'm using her command that she already knew. So I'm just adding that command and then eventually taking away the halter so that it's training her to the pressure of the bit. It's changing one thing at a time, and it's the most, I think, safest way to transition so that they know the pressure, and you're retraining, reprogramming their brain to work with the bit and not the halter, or work with the bitless bridle and not the bit. Another thing you can do to warm your horse up to getting used to a bitless bridle is to do a lot of groundwork with it on them and do a lot of head to your side. You can even have them back up and do a lot of exercises that you would do on the back, but just start with that on the ground. So you also want to train your horse to respond to your slightest ask, so you can be nice and light on your hands, and that is by training with light hands. If you ask for something and then release in the right moment when you get your first glance or thought or movement, then you are training the horse to respond to the slightest movement instead of training them to respond to a heavy movement. So if you're training your horse to respond to pulling their head to your knee, then you ask for a very small amount of pressure and you hold that until they think about it, and then you release it. Instead of grabbing your horse and pulling their head to your knee and then releasing them, you're not training them to respond to light pressure, you're training them to come to your knee when you pull their head to their knee. So it's kind of valid for, every tool that you use, any headgear that you use or whatever, and it's all applies the same as a bitless bridle. And I really like my bitless bridle because for one, I'm just not a huge fan of bits. I use a bit here and there for when I'm doing jumping or barrel racing or something, but bits are kind of finicky, and they actually need to, if you want to use one properly, you actually need to have it be fitted or know what you're doing and know what a fitted bit looks like in your horse, or what the proper size bit and all those kinds of things. So I try not to use a bit when I can, and I like Stella being able to not have to use a bit because I know that she doesn't really care for it, and I know I'm not harming anything in her mouth that I can't see. And it's also, when I'm training her with the bitless bridle, I feel like I'm also setting her up to be lighter on the bit. So I do switch back and forth because Stella knows both of them, and it really isn't that difficult to train your horse to go back and forth between each one. If you're teaching your horse to be light on the head and stuff, then you don't have to worry about them taking off with you or bolting or disrespecting the pressure on their head. If you need more pressure, more pain on your horse, then that's a training problem, not a tool problem. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with going back to the basics if you're having problems. There's no reason you have to cover it up with more equipment, more pain, more discipline. Just something to think about. I definitely recommend doing a lot of groundwork and arena work and those kind of things. Make sure your horse is really used to it and respects it before taking them out on a trail ride or somewhere far out where they might get out of hand, and then, like, because it isn't going to be as harsh of pressure as a bit, they could run through it. Although if your horse is used to a bit already, then they're probably just gonna run through that pressure anyways, because you kind of dull a horse to a certain pressure after using it so much. And then if you're always pulling on your horse's face, no matter what you have on them, if it's a halter, if it's a bitless bridle, if it's a bit, they are going to eventually tune out that pressure and run through it, because that pressure never releases. So there's no point in responding to that pressure because there's no release. They're not finding an answer and doing the right thing. So I think I covered all the basics. I might be forgetting something. If there's something that I missed, then feel free to ask me down in the comments. I might have an answer for you, or I might not. Who knows? Also, don't forget I am hosting a giveaway right now, and it ends February 11th, so don't hesitate or waste your time or do anything. Hold the phone. Just go onto the giveaway right now. You won't regret it, and chances of you winning are very high. So that's what I'm gonna say. And you go check out this video to get more details about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big like and subscribe, because I post new videos every single Sunday and you don't want to miss them. And you go follow me on Instagram and TikTok, because I post a lot of fun stuff over there too. So you can do that. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.